everybody. It's great to have you tuning in to Connect with KB as we talk about business and education and leadership and all the wonderful things that connect us to each other. My guest today is Kurt Berryman, Director of Government Affairs at the Auto Dealers of Michigan. He's been one of Lansing's top lobbyists for years and has built his career by having an incredible sense of humor and an understanding of who he is and his proud authenticity. I want to welcome to the podcast Kurt Berryman. KB, welcome to Connect with KB.
Well, thank you, KB. When you're done with this show, I might just keep your trademark, Connect with KB. Or another proposition I have for you is maybe we do KB and KB.
You know, I like it. I like that idea. And I think that you and we could be a powerful duo. And obviously anybody who goes by KB, and I know you have for a long time and I have for a long time. So I think we ought to talk a little bit about that. I think that would be fun. I think we got a lot of material to cover, and I'd be interested to work with you a little more closely. You know that I'm a big fan and that I so admire the work you do. And so let's just start, like I start all of my podcasts, with the story. I want to hear the Kurt Berryman KB story.
Well, you know, how much time?
We can go as long as you want. I mean, we can go all day if you want to.
Well, I'm just going to add that on the KB and KB show, I would be the brawn and you would be the brains and the beauty.
Oh, well, thank you, friend.
So with that, you know, the Kurt Berryman story, you know, I'll start from the beginning. I'm a Texan. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, for a good part of my life. And then I was a Shell brat. And by Shell brat, like a military brat, my dad worked for Shell Oil, and we got transferred around the United States. So we went to New Orleans, Louisiana, actually up to Traverse City, Michigan, and then back to Texas, a couple of locations. So I kind of traveled as a young man. Interesting, I played high school football, and I got a college football scholarship to Northwestern Louisiana, not Northwestern in Chicago, Northwestern Louisiana. Went there, and it really didn't work out. I left that program and then went to work, interestingly, on a Shell Oil seismograph crew doing oil and gas exploration, which brought me up to Michigan. Short story is, one cold winter day, we were working in Gaylord, Michigan, and I had flunked out of college the first time, so probably 5 years had gone by. It was cold, it was snowing, we were in a swamp, and I came home that day and called my dad in Texas and said, you know, I think I'd like to go back to college and give it another try. Well, that led me to Central. In my Shell days, we had worked a little bit of time in Mount Pleasant, and it led me back to Mount Pleasant to Central Michigan University. I literally begged my way into Central. A man that I still keep in contact with let me in. He was an admissions officer. He was only about 28 at the time. And that kind of started my move towards politics. At CMU, I met Joanne Emmons.
Oh, yeah.
She was looking for an intern. I had no idea what I was going to study. I don't think I studied anything but maybe Budweiser and Leave It to Beaver, when I flunked out of college. So I kind of picked economics and political science. I met, I don't know if you ever heard of Bill Brown. He was a pretty famous professor at CMU in the intern program. Hooked me up with Joanne Emmons, drove over to her farm in Big Rapids. I didn't own a suit. I've told this story before to my friends that know me well. Didn't own a suit, went to the JCPenney in Mount Pleasant, which you could buy a suit off the rack and get a haircut. They had a little beauty salon there at the JCPenney. You know, drove over there and met with Joanne and her husband and got the internship, and, you know, that was it. I had never even entertained politics or policy or anything like that in my life. And, you know, that one decision to go back to school
has led you all the way here.
Yeah, and meet Joanne, and I you know the rest of the story. It's how you and I met. I worked in the state legislature, State Senator Joanne Emmons' office for 10 years, and kind of progress from there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit. I want to get back to that in a minute about the journey, but tell me just a little bit about the Michigan auto dealers and kind of where you're working right now. What's going on? How's the industry? Everything's been a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah. this year, it'll be 17 years that I've been with the dealers. I mean, that time has flown by for me. And I work for both the Michigan and Detroit auto dealers as their government relations person. Some years ago, prior to me, they kind of were two separate organizations, and they decided for the purpose of lobbying to join forces, and they created the Auto Dealers of Michigan, which I'm the government relations person for. Of course, the Detroit dealers put on the auto show. Everybody loves the auto show. We're very excited that we're going to have a traditional auto show again coming in September of this year. So, I've loved working with the dealers. I have a board. We usually keep issues very simple. If it doesn't impact the day-to-day operations of a dealership, we don't get involved. We don't join a lot of coalitions. We try to keep it focused on the business at hand. You mentioned, like right now, obviously the chip issue,
right,
and the inventory. Great shortages. It's been a challenge, but I think the good news is, and I don't want you to think I'm lobbying, but if you kind of track auto sales and sales tax revenue that the state collects, we're selling cars. We don't have a lot on the lot, but every vehicle that's coming in, we're selling. I mean, we're selling cars. I guess a funny or a positive side of this, there's always a bright side of bad situations. For many dealers, and if you look across the state when you're driving around, for the first time ever, they've been able to redo their parking lots.
Right. They don't have any inventory.
No inventory. So they've either been able to patch them or redo them or put in a new one or blacktop it. So there's a lot of positives. I think challenges ahead, and it's not a challenge. We're excited and apprehensive about the change to electric, the move towards electric vehicles. Sure. What are we going to get? We're still not, at least from the major manufacturers, getting a lot of electric cars. We're not getting any cars right now, right, but we're not getting a lot of electric cars. But excited about what that means. Changes at the dealership. What do we have to do in the back of the store as far as fixing electric cars, storing batteries, things like that, charging stations. So certainly excited about the future of the franchise.
And it kind of diversifies you a little bit too. I mean, as much as you kind of think that's focused on the auto industry, you really kind of have to have relationships too with the energy industry.
Oh yeah,
don't you? And the people at the consumers or DTE or wherever it might be, and what that means.
Absolutely right. And we lighten up those dealerships at night, use a lot of power. So we've always had pretty good working relationships with the utilities, but something entirely new when you're talking about putting in this infrastructure for charging and what do you need and upgrades and new lines run in. So yeah, for me it's kind of nice because I am getting to deal with some new issues in the industry.
That's where you really always want to be. You want to be a little bit challenged in regards to something new and, having an opportunity to be a little visionary and what that looks like and to learn. I want to talk a little bit about your journey, and you and I did this a little bit offline, but, I've heard you talk before about Joanne Emmons' office and the relationships that you had there, the Jim Holcombs of the world, who's now the chamber president of the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, and Pete Riddell and Patty. And I wanted you to talk a little bit so that the listeners, and especially for young people, they understand what those relationships mean. And you are still friends with these people 25 plus years later. Yeah, and
certainly
share a little bit about that.
Well, it's, Joanne had a tendency to bring in misfit toys and the island of misfit toys and lost puppies. So, I mean, you named a few of them. I'm going to click off a few that come out of the lineage of Joanne Emmons' office. And I could talk for 2 hours on Joanne Emmons. Let's just be clear about that. And she certainly changed my life. But Jim Holcomb at the chamber, the head of the chamber now, Alan Wilk, a partner at Dykema, Peter Riddell, partner at Honickman now, Patty Hertrich, still chief of staff and working with people in the legislatures, worked for a number of key legislators and a Propst chairman. And truth be known, Patty ran our office the whole time. I might have had a chief of staff title. Patty ran the office and kept all of us bad boys. Eric Hinkst over at Walmart. Jeremiah Mankoff, who has his own firm and does lobbying. So Gene Lutherlow, who's still doing politics and campaign stuff in the Senate, has done it in the House. So, you meet Amy Shaw, lawyer over the list goes on. And, Joanne was a real, she really valued loyalty, and those are the kind of people that she hired, and she showed it, and she expected loyalty in return. And I think that's one of the things she taught me and people that worked for her. And you mentioned that, everybody I named, I'm still in contact with and friends with. Brett Henderson, rest his soul. He was one of my very best friends all time. So she had a cast of clowns in there, including me. But it was like a family. And I think you remember the days in the Senate. We had lunch together probably twice a week. We had what was called Hot Dog Day. And everybody Joanne would bring in hot dogs and grill hot dogs in the Farnham. And so it was like a family. And, it doesn't surprise me at all that, every one of those people have gone on to have really established and successful careers.
But they probably would have not thought that this was going to be the journey for them. That's the thing. And I think, telling young people that, dream big and, aspire and build relationships and network, because that's the thing that's going to sustain you long term. You know what I mean? You'll go from job to job probably, but the relationships are going to be key to really your success and really where you land and how much help people can be to you.
I think you're exactly right on that. And, term limits, I think, has made it more of a challenge. I mean, again, I was in that office myself for 10 years. Patty ended up being in there the entire 12 years that Joanne served. So it's more of a challenge, but I think you're right, KB. You have to look at all of the things that these jobs offer. Incredible opportunities in different directions you can go. I ended up being a lobbyist, but Gene Lutherlow ended up doing campaigns. Jim Holcomb's running an association. There's so many things that I think I would encourage young people or people that are in. You don't have to be young. You can start. I showed up here at 28, not 21. Try to experience it all. Learn it all. Do the campaign stuff, do the politics stuff, do the policy stuff. Learn what they do at LSB. Learn how to draft a bill and order a bill, and dig into it. You're right. It's so many opportunities and people to have marvelous experiences with.
The thing is too that there's been so many people who have helped you and I along the way, and I know you've had a great close relationship with Pat Laughlin through the years, and I suspect that probably you still chat with him every now and again, and he tells you probably what to do.
Unfortunately, you certainly know Pat if you're telling you what to do, because Pat loves to start out with, "I don't want to tell you what to do. I don't want to tell you, but you're right. I use the word blessed a lot in my family and my professional life. I've never really had a plan, but the people I've been fortunate enough to work with as my bosses and mentor, Joanne Emmons, I've said a lot about her. Then I went to GCSI with Pat Laughlin and Steve Young and Mike Hawks and Nell Kumanich. I mean, what 4 great people to learn about lobbying and the legislative process. Then, for better or worse, I went off 2 years with Thad McCotter, Congressman McCotter in D.C., and people have a lot of opinions on Thad. One of the smartest people I've ever known and worked with, which Pat Laughlin also is. And so you're right. You don't know who's going to cross your paths, but soak every damn bit of it in when they do.
You bet. And you just, it will come back too. That moment right then, it might not make a whole lot of sense to you, but it will come back. And, for you now in the position that you're in and your network and people, and I want to talk a little bit about the family for a second, because I think that really kind of defines you now too. The status of you having this great career with the auto dealers, having this journey, a network and friendship, but more importantly is the dad and husband that you are, and having Benson and sweet little Forrest, and I'm going to call him Sweet Bob.
Sweet Bob, yeah. Sweet Bob.
And, talk a little bit about that and what that kind of means to you in the balance in your life and how you prioritize and how this really kind of shapes Kurt Berryman.
You've known me a long time, and you've known me through some good and bad times, and you've seen me running fairly hard through this town. Uh-huh. So, like I said, and I really mean this, I'm not being a smarty pants or anything. I've never really had a plan, but if KB, if you were to tell me I would be sitting across from you at 58 with a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, I would have called you a liar when we first met and used to know each other and cross paths. I would have, called you a damn liar. So, I don't know. I certainly don't believe I could be a better father, or I would be a better father at 28. I know Kurt Berryman at 28, right? And probably 38. The insight that I have now, some of the financial freedom, some of the work freedom that I have by being an older father, I'm about to cry because it's life-changing for me. I mean, you're a parent, and everybody experienced parenthood at different times, but, I mean, it's the greatest joy of my life. Marrying my wife saved my life, I really believe, at the time. And these two kids, last night, my son, a 4-year-old, still likes to sneak in bed to sleep with us. Everybody's been through that. And, at 2 a.m, I was stroking his hair. Yeah. And I just couldn't be any more damn happy than that moment right there. And I don't think anything will change it. So just quickly, I think I have more freedoms and certainly a different mindset than I was at a young person. And it's no balance, KB. I insist. I make time now to be a father. Mm-hmm. That's number one. Two's not even close.
Right. Well, and you know what? And I see it. And, I said this to you earlier that, your posts on Facebook, and it is just in this day and age that we're living in, we need a little more lightheartedness. We need people to be really authentic. And you are right up there. One of the most authentic people that I know. And I love every single second. And all of your friends, too, they know it. Like if I were to say somebody, I'm having Berryman on the podcast, they're like, oh, God, geez. Yeah. And, that's the thing about you that is so neat to me, is how real you are and how kind you are. And, I think I mentioned this to you before that, when your mom died and you posted and said, kiss your mama's face every chance you get, it so stayed with me and it meant so much. And, I can hardly look at my mom without thinking about that with you. And the vulnerability for you to do that and to put that out there, and it's not just vulnerability. It's just, it's love. It's caring, and you trying to pass that on to other people to say, listen, do not miss this opportunity.
I'm a mama's boy. I was a mama's boy. I'll admit that. Is the toughest woman I ever met, greatest adversary I ever met. Epic battles. But it's just so important. I have a very dear friend who recently has gone through the loss of his mom, and I didn't counsel him because we're just friends. Right. You don't just counsel friends. You're just friends to friends. And I would tell him, let her play with your hair. Kiss her face. And I think I shared with you that I get every once in a while I get an opportunity to speak to a group that's not dealers, and I try to be funny, try to be light, and I always close with call your mother. I don't care how old you are, and if your mother's not around, call your dad.
Yeah.
But it's It's important.
Absolutely, it is. I love this role of you as a dad, and I think it's kind of interesting that, I'd give you like a top dad award. But I know that something that everybody in this town knows is that you have been repeatedly one of Michigan's most effective lobbyists. What does that mean to you?
I think the survey, they might have thought the heaviest, who's the heaviest lobbyist, since I roll in at about 3 bills. I don't want to seem like a silly politician that says I don't believe in polls or anything, but it's a little bit of a popularity contest. It's being here, 20 years doing this now. Here's what I hope it means: that I'm honest, that I represent the dealers well and honorably, and that I tell the truth, that I'm pretty good at what I do. That's what I hope.
Yeah, well, and I think that has been the hallmark of your career, and that, what you see in Kurt Berryman is what you get, and it's you all the time. You're always the same. If you could give any advice to young people getting into lobbying or the political arena, what would you say to them? Certainly I didn't want to be a lobbyist when I was a kid. I didn't have a little expense book and Gucci shoes, and you can tell the way I dress now. I really don't care. You're still going to JCPenney to get
maybe TJ Maxx, whatever's on sale, whatever I can wear untucked. But I mentioned a little earlier, get involved and this job affords you so many damn opportunities. Take every one of them. Go to every event. Go to every fundraiser, go to every brunch, learn how to draft a bill. Those people at LSB will be happy to sit down and spend time with you. The policy office, learn the policy side. If you haven't done campaigns, do it. It's all intermingled.
Right.
The policy, the politics, the elections, it's all one thing. It really is. So learn it all and eat it up, and don't chase money. Right. Don't run after the next job that pays $2,000 more. Please do not do that.
Right. Do what makes you happy and invest yourself in it. And the next thing you know, you're going to have a 25 or 30-year career just like Kurt Berryman. I want you to come back. I'm serious about this. KB and KB, let's talk about it.
KB and KB?
I like it.
I like it.
Thanks so much for joining me, friend.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My guest today has been Kurt Berryman. He's also my friend. Kurt Berryman from the Auto Dealers of Michigan. I also want to thank my supporting sponsors, Marketing Resource Group, Downing Industries, Governmental Consultant Services, AF Group, Public Affairs Associates, and Mercantile Bank. You can listen to all my podcasts at connectwithkb.com. Until we connect again, go live your best life. I'm your host, Kristin Belzer.